Andy Croll, welcome to my kind of casual, off the cuff, very unprofessional, unofficial conference chats that I've been
Cool.
having.
Unprofessional is in my wheelhouse, so let's stop there. That's good.
Yeah. Very much that. So I've, for context, just been um, reaching out to conference organizers and selfishly, I've been trying to gather information to create my own conference, but also I'm recording them and putting them all on a site so that hopefully other people in the future that want to start their own conference can see these because something that I keep running into actually is that every time I reach out to somebody, they say, "Oh, I did the exact same thing. I reached out to a bunch of
Yeah,
conference organizers, and they gave me all these good tips and everything." And that's great. And I think that's a good thing. I think people still should reach out
yeah,
and have that connection. But I think it would also be good to record some of these so that we can get some of that information out there for maybe
yeah.
people that don't have a chance to connect. Um, so that's what this is. You have a lot of conference organizing experience. I was just trolling the internet, and you've organized Brighton Ruby. You've helped organize RailsConf, Red Dot Ruby, LTV Conf. Um, Let me know if I missed any, and can you kind of
RubyConf Mini, I also help with that one.
Okay, yes, I did see that one. I missed that one here. So, can you give us kind of uh maybe your origin story? Like, how did you get into this and why are you still doing it so much?
I mean, that's a bloody good question. Why am I still doing it? So I am an idiot, with too many work adjacent side hobbies. Originally, I lived in Singapore for 6 years between 2007, 2012.
Mhm.
And I was part of the Ruby meetup there, and we were sat around at Christmas one year, and I was sort of like, that was in the peak era of the first wave of like small Ruby conferences happening in the US, all the regional stuff when it first kicked off, sort of when RailsConf was this behemoth, where like sort of Rails 2-ish era.
Mhm.
And I said, we should totally have a conference here. Like Ruby's in Japan, and Japan is close, I said, knowing full well that Japan was like an 8-hour flight, but it was closer than the US, right? So I
Yeah.
was thinking, yeah, we should do this here. And someone said, yeah, you should do that, Andy. And I was like, okay, I will. So I asked, there was a guy there who was running the Pivotal Labs office at the time, Carl, and he said, well, I'll sponsor it to get you off the ground, give you some cash flow. And then I emailed Matt. And then Matt emailed me back and said, "Yeah, I'd love to come and speak." And then I was like, "Oh no, now I have to put on a conference."
Wow.
Um, and at the time, Singapore was sort of going through a sort of startup focus. The government was sort of pumping loads of money into
Mhm.
startups. Singapore's not a big country, but it's very travelable too. Travelable too. Um, so we actually got a bunch of folks from Australia came over because we were their nearest Ruby conference.
Mhm.
I know a few folks who ended up running like the Australian Ruby conference. Like they came to those early Red Dot Ruby 2 that I ran. And then when I got back to the UK, I didn't know anyone because I've been in Singapore for 6 years doing Rails. So I needed to build a network, or I need to find a job basically. Um, and I thought with 18-month-old twins, the quickest way to do that was to host a conference in the UK. And there hadn't been a UK Ruby conference for a number of years at that point. So I did that. And the first one was 140 people. The one that I hosted 8 days ago was 450 attendees.
Wow.
So it's fairly punchy these days in terms of size. I've got a really great venue in Brighton. It's a charity that runs the Brighton Festival. Out of our main venue, they've got three different size rooms. So I started in the smallest room, and then I went to the second size room, and now I'm in the big room. And I'm like the least scary thing that they deal with. Like they deal with like gigs for 2,000 people, dancing, drinking, what have you, and I'm just like 400 nerds during the day who
Talking.
like coffee, and like it's
Yeah.
pretty much that straightforward. So I'm able to keep doing it because I don't change it that much.
Mm.
Um, I also feel like there's a little bit of there was a Ruby conference in Scotland last year. There has been other Ruby conferences in the UK. There was one in Bath for a couple of years. I spoke at that one. Um, Obviously, like the European Ruby conference scene is like really busy. Um, and I just keep doing it because people keep coming, right? Mostly
Mm.
people are lovely. Like, there's in the feedback, there's always like one or two people who miss the point, or they think they're unique because they give me this feedback, and I'm like, you, inverted commas, you were here last year. And you
Yeah.
didn't get anything out of it either, but you didn't come back, and so now you're here again. So it's this. So broadly speaking, it's like 95% great, and then
Yeah.
the 2 weeks before are dreadful. Personally, like stress wise,
Yeah.
but I can sort of manage the rest of it throughout the year, and like I've been doing it so long now that I can sort of do it ambiently a little bit.
Uh,
So that the 2 weeks before is like, yeah, stuff starts arriving at my house, and I end up with like rooms full of lanyards and socks and beach towels and
yeah.
what have you. But like generally, I keep doing it because people are nice and people like it, and I make a little bit of money. I bought myself a Switch 2 this year. That was nice.
Nice.
Um, like it's also like there's a bit of ego in it. I enjoy the conference day. I like
Hmm.
emceeing it. That's fun. I like helping people with their talks in the run up to it. Uh I like the first beer after it's all done.
Yeah.
I like the excuse of I like a conference on my doorstep that is exactly to my taste.
Yeah.
So there's a certain amount of everything. Like part of the Rails Conf thing I did last year, huge personal mistake, great personal success, very valuable, felt good about it, but just like sucked the energy out of my life for 6 months. Not quite
Yeah.
6 months, didn't have 6 months to help with it. But like that was a big thing. It was trying to refocus like my version of RailsConf,
Mm.
um, alongside Ufuk, who was on the board of Ruby Central and stuff. So like part of it was focusing the Ruby Central machine on a different angle on the conference, I suppose, after post COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know why I keep doing it. Honestly, I wish I knew, like, because then I could stop. My wife certainly asks, "Oh, why are you still doing this? You could stop."
Yeah.
No, nothing would be bad. Also, the accusatory, you really love this, don't you? So, so it's a real mixture, right? Like, I like the community side of things. Like, I'm a
Yeah.
weirdly sociable programmer.
Mm.
Yeah, most of us are. Like, we all need to retreat to our caves afterwards, and I'm no different. But like,
Yeah.
I like to be in a room full of my people, and I think the Ruby folks really are our people. Like, I often get a
Mm.
speaker in from outside of our community as well. So this year, a lady called Amy Hoop, who's a design system specialist, who I saw at another conference that I help out at in Brighton, just on the door, and she was like, they're really friendly. Like they're really. I thought my talk. I didn't know if my talk was going to go down well because it's not totally like Ruby whatever.
Right.
It's like no, like the Ruby crowd are wide enough and broad-minded enough to hear things from other people and take what they can from that. So that's always been a fun thing for me, is to try and do that little twist as well.
Yeah. I've kind of started to think of conference organizing as having kids. Like you see parents and they look tired, they look upset, and you're like, "Oh, you guys like are having a rough time." They're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Oh, so I shouldn't have kids, right?" They're like, "No, no, it was the best thing we ever did." And
Yeah,
I'm like,
I wouldn't go
"Okay."
that far. I mean, parenting aside, but like I think you do need a certain kind of constitution, particularly if you want to keep going with the conferences. There
Right.
aren't many people who have done it as long as I have.
Yes. Yep.
So I'm
100%.
I'm I'm obviously unusually suited to it, or it
Mm.
tickles a part of my brain that means I keep coming back. Um,
Yeah.
maybe part of that is a lack of competition. Maybe I don't know. Like, I wonder if there was another big UK Ruby conference that like fulfilled half the thing that I'd just go along, and that would also be fine. Like
Right.
I've
Yeah.
quite enjoyed the last two Rails worlds, because particularly the Amsterdam one, because I could get on a train,
Right.
go underneath the channel, and end up in Amsterdam, and then poot
Yeah.
around for 4 days, and
Yeah.
puts on an amazing show. And so like, this is great. I can just go to
Mhm.
this. This is to my taste. Lots of my
Yeah.
friends are here. Yeah.
Yeah, part of
It's
the
also another thing that I personally get out of it is I've made loads of good friends from
hmm
doing like some people do it just by speaking.
hmm
Um, and there's that kind of like ambient work related friendship thing. Like there's this concept of like
yeah,
low I mean, as you get older, it's more difficult to make friends, right? And it's not like school where you realize you spend all of your time with the same group of like five people.
yeah.
Um, I spend most of my time with my family, but it's
hmm
nice to have. But they don't understand what I do. My wife doesn't understand my job totally. Like she sort of does. She also sort of doesn't understand why I like it.
Yeah.
Um, and so like to have like every 6 months or 3 months or once a year, like a group of people, and often the same group of people come back, like that's something that I really value.
hmm
So that's probably the reason I do it as well.
Yeah. Um, what's the hardest thing, if you had to pick one thing, about organizing a conference and maybe focus that on for like a first time person, like where are first time people most likely to trip up, um, or have the most trouble when they're organizing?
I would say there's two things. One is costs getting out of control.
hmm
Everyone spends too much money. I'm intrinsically a person who doesn't like to waste money. Like I'll spend money and I'll spend money on Illustrator, I'll spend money on videos, but those things are additional once I have covered my costs.
Yeah.
So like you have to, at a minimum, be be on target with your costs.
Yeah.
Because if that gets out of hand, then you're spending all of this life energy, all of this time away from your family, your spouse, whoever, and then you lose money. That sucks so hard. And like I don't expect to make loads of money. Like some years I've done really well because like I've sold more tickets than I was expecting. But generally, what I do is I ramp up. So as the ticket sales go, or over the years, as the ticket sales have gone up, I have invested that money back into the event.
Right.
So, for example, the first year there's no videos because I just didn't have the money for videos, and there was no swag. And then as it's got bigger, I can offset that, and as it gets bigger, there's more sponsors. And like, I try not to have too many sponsors. I try not to do that thing where there's like a wall of sponsors.
Mm.
I try and have like three or four sponsors who are willing to pay a decent amount of money for me to make it worth it for them to get a benefit from it. But that's
Right.
entirely like about costs for them. So like if I had 10 sponsors all giving me a little bit, I can't do a good job from them and they're all competing with each other for people's attention. If I get
Yeah.
three big sponsors, each giving me they're all hiring basically. Sponsors for conferences are generally hiring or they're doing a nice thing.
Yeah.
The tools people for smaller conferences, really difficult for them to make money. So if a tools company like you say like a Honey Badger or an App Signal or whoever, like they're doing it to be involved and to get thank yous and to keep their brand name out there, that's like brand advertising, but they're not expecting ROI. Whereas people who actually sponsor my conference are there to recruit, and therefore they pay me a couple £1,000, a few £1,000, and if they make a hire that isn't through a recruiter, they've made that money back.
Gotcha.
So like
That makes sense.
that's purely makes sense for a conference of my size.
hmm
Um, so yeah, but that is how I also keep the costs down. Like I charge a reasonable amount for sponsorship, and that also minimizes the amount of time I have to spend with them. If I had 10, I'd have 10 people to contact, and it's
Right.
just me organizing. So like if I've got three and they've done it before, that's great because I can predictably know what to give them and what they need.
Yeah.
So yeah, cost control is the main thing. And the other thing is extreme events. So like someone misbehaving. So like that's stressful.
hmm
When you have to uninvite someone, when you have to make the big call where someone's misbehaved and you have to tell them off and say you're not welcome anymore. I've had to do that because I've just been doing it for so long. It hasn't happened. It doesn't happen much.
hmm
But like there's a thing that I do at the beginning of all of my conferences that I don't see other people do, which is actually get into what the code of conduct means and what is my expectation for behavior and for when you should get in touch with me. And it generally has meant that nothing bad has happened since I've been doing that.
hmm
But I don't see many people do it. Most people just sort of brush off the code of conduct thing and say, "Oh, code of conduct, da da da." And I'm like, "This is what that means. If you
Yeah.
go for drinks afterwards, consider yourself to still be at work, right? Like, like don't do stupid stuff that would embarrass you if someone videoed you doing it, right? Like that's just like it's basic human stuff, but like people get a few drinks inside them and get excited and have had a lovely day and then they do stupid things. So, but like
Yeah.
dealing with that stuff and being, I mean, that is like parenting. It's like you have to tell people off and like punish them some to a
Yeah.
certain extent, right? So like I have had to do that to a couple of folks who will never be allowed to come to Brighton Ruby
Gotcha.
again.
Um, are you so I counted, you've done Brighton Ruby now 11 times. Are you still learning things? Like, did you notice anything this year that you want to like improve next year or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, that it's always in pursuit of making things smoother
Mm.
and easier. And so the last couple of years, I've had help from an event specialist. She comes along the day and runs the front of house, which
Oh,
makes
okay.
a big difference for me. It means I can concentrate on the speakers and the day, and she's great. Children want to play on their PlayStation, but it's in here.
Oh no.
So she's been really helpful. Um, even silly things like just finessing how registration happens. So
Mhm.
like this year, one of the feedback from last year was like registration didn't work very well because everyone had to put the lanyards on their own badges. So I get people to write their own badges. I don't print all the badges out. I print blank
Yeah.
badges and then they fill them in, put stickers on them, write on them, fun little
Mhm.
creative thing at the beginning of the day. This year I spent 3 hours with a pair of pliers and a hole punch, and I hole punched all 500 badges, and then it was described as the smoothest registration that she'd ever worked on. So I'm like, cool, that was an improvement that I did this year. I haven't looked at the feedback forms in detail yet for this year. Um, I thought it went well. People were nice afterwards.
Mhm.
It's like it's also I know what Brighton Ruby is,
Mhm.
so it's important to know what your event is, um, and to know what your own boundaries are. Like people are like, oh, it'd be great if it was 2 days. And I'm like, I can't do 2 days. I
Yeah.
don't have the energy to do a 2 day version, and the 1 day version works.
Mhm.
Um, had you considered doing training around it? I'm like, yes, I had. I tried to make it work a couple of years, and it didn't. People weren't interested in the day before training course for 10 people. Just didn't. Wasn't the uptake for it.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so I've. It's also like the event ends up shaping itself. Like you just have to listen, and like it's just nudges every year, like slightly bigger, slightly bigger. It's been about this size for 3 years now. Post COVID was smaller because I booked a smaller venue because when I booked the venue, it was still people not leaving their houses. I didn't know if people were going to come out, so I didn't want to book a 500 person venue. So I booked a 120 person venue and sold it out. So I was like, cool. So the next year was much bigger because people felt like they'd missed out. And then it's kind of settled down to a little bit below that the last couple of years.
Nice. Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, I think I don't know if I've answered your question.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. Um, so going back to like your early conference experience, actually, I don't know how much you can relate to this because you the first year that you did uh the Singapore was that Red Dot Ruby?
Yeah, Red Dot, yeah.
You already had a sponsor and you already had mats coming.
Yeah.
So like that kind of just set you on this trajectory.
Yeah,
But
I did. I mean, I started again when I was back in the UK. So like I had
that's yeah, that's true.
it was
So
2011 and 2012 with the red dots,
okay.
I think.
So if as somebody let's just take me, for example, who
Good
has
example.
no online presence. I have no blog following or anything. Um, I've gone to a couple conferences, but I don't also have a really wide network. Um, how did you convince people to come to that first conference when you're basically an unknown? Is there any tips that you have there?
I mean, the only like part of the reason that like if I am known at all, it's because I've been running Brighton Ruby for 10 years.
Right.
It's not I was known and therefore I could run Brighton Ruby.
Hmm.
Like it's anything good that's happened has happened downstream of it.
Gotcha.
And that's because it suits me as well. Like it suits me that I can, like I was saying before, like it fits my personality for whatever hell reason, whatever weird reason.
Hmm.
Um, I would say all you have to do is if you can keep your costs low enough and your ticket price low enough, you make the decision easy for people who want to go. So
Mm.
for me, Red Dot was there was a bunch of Ruby companies in Singapore. Mats was
Mhm.
coming. One Ruby employer was sponsoring. I posted in the Sydney Ruby chat wherever it was at the time. I posted on various things like forums, social media as was back then. Um, and I just knew I could make a 50-person version work.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, this is true to this day. It's like I am not playing in the Rails conf, apart from when I did Rails conf. I'm not playing in the Rails conf Rails world level of tickets. Like my
Yeah.
ticket price is still, if you buy a ticket 6 months in advance, it's £130,
Mm.
which is wildly less than any competent Ruby developer's day rate. So
Yeah.
if you are the decision you are making is, do I want to go to this and forego a day's income? Not can I afford the ticket?
Yeah.
So like that's still in my head is like, I mean, the ticket price is still, I've kept it relatively flat for those early birds. I think yeah, it's not gone that far forward even with inflation because I'm still able to make the numbers work.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's about keeping that cost down. Are you easy to travel to? Because that makes a difference. Like
Yeah.
Brighton pulls from London, dead easy. Like it's a half-hour train journey from London. No, more than that.
Hmm.
It's like an hour's train journey from London. So people can do it in a day. It gets more tricky when people have to fly in and stay over.
Yeah.
People do stay over in Brighton because Brighton's a tourist town. So and it's very pleasant here. And I have it in the summer when the weather is nice. So like there's all
Hmm.
sorts of reasons that people stick around. But then that only really started to happen later on. And lots of people still go back to London. So they'll come down on the morning, they'll commute down, go to the day, stay for a drink, and then get on the last train home. Um,
Do you know like what percentage of people are local, at least in like within an hour travel time versus
I mean,
people
if
that
you
fly
count
in?
London, probably half the people.
Okay,
But
gotcha.
London is a massive city, right? So
Right. Right.
if you're talking like local, so like
Hmm.
might come to Brighton for something else, probably only less than 10%. Like just as I'm drawing mostly from London, and then there's a bunch of European folks who come and enjoy it and come every year. And we're also Gatwick is only half an hour from here as well. So like if
Hmm.
people are flying in from Europe, you could in theory do it in a day. You wouldn't do it in a day, but you could.
Yeah.
Um, I had one speaker who tried to do it in a day and it did not work. Uh, so yeah, like I have that as well. Like Gatwick's the European airport typically as well. So
Hmm.
people do come in for a couple of nights. Um, and it's nice enough where I live that it's a city you might want to visit anyway. Like we have lots of folks. It's the summer right now. It's a town that has lots of stag and hen do's or bachelor and bachelorette parties come to Brighton
Hmm.
quite a bit. We also have lots of like European student groups come over and hang out in Brighton for a couple of days. You see them walking around town with their matching backpacks and someone at the front with a little sign. So like
Yeah.
it's that kind of town, so it's quite a pleasant place to be and it's got really good food and stuff. So like it's a place that you would come anyway. The fact there's a Ruby conference is kind of a benefit. Someone
Got it.
pointed out this week that I should probably get on board with the local council and chamber of commerce to see if there's any way that they can, I'm bringing as a benefit to the city, I'm bringing 500 people to it once a year.
Right.
I have
Yeah.
done for a decade, so maybe the city can help. And I just have never bothered asking. I probably should.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of things that I could be doing that I'm not. Um,
Yeah. 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 Cool.
like I only really thought of that when I helped out at Detroit Rails Conf, and like Detroit were amazing. The city of Detroit were like super helpful.
Oh, nice.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like those, but that's for a bigger scale of conference than I'm doing. Although
Right. True.
not actually not in terms of numbers, not that much bigger.
That's true. Um, so talking about sponsors, again, same kind of question, but for someone just starting out, it the value proposition is difficult to make to sponsors. Obviously, there's the strategy of keep costs as low as possible and don't rely on sponsors, which is I think, a good strategy in the first year, and one that I will probably lean on. But do you have any insight into how to maybe talk to sponsors or how to approach sponsors when you're just doing this for the first time?
It's really difficult, right? Because I have a bunch of Ruby employers in the UK who are local, who are in London, who are hiring from the
Mhm.
southeast of England.
Yeah.
And we're single time zoned as well in the UK. So even if they're remote, they're hiring from the UK remotely. So there's a bunch of like most of the companies are hiring remotely within the UK. So they're not expecting
Mhm.
people to move. Um, I think it's also, I'm very clear about what works. Like when people get in touch and they're like, oh, I've built this thing for Rubyists, I'm like, honestly, it's really difficult to show ROI for like uh,
A
dev
conference.
tools
Yeah.
people. Other than like, there are some great small indie dev tools companies who throw money at conferences, not huge amounts, but like, cash flow kind of money. So that's great. So like, for me, the most important thing is to find is like, it's the cost thing. Like the sponsors let me do stuff. So
Yeah.
the things that you think you might need to run a conference, you don't need.
Mhm.
You don't need video. That's a huge cost. You don't need to feed people. They can feed themselves. And in fact, I think that's better. It's
Yeah.
much better, like particularly if you're having it gives a conference more character if you're of the place that you're in.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that's an important thing. Like Brighton's got such good food. Like it'd be a waste for me to give people disappointing sandwiches and
Hmm.
keep them in a hot venue, right? That would be rubbish. I'm just like, no, no, go eat. Like
Yeah.
go meet people you wouldn't have otherwise met.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I don't, I do coffee and pastries because I'm not an animal, but like
Hmm.
actual dinners cost so like, and that was a big reveal to me helping out with RailsConf was like how much budget is put towards those enormous cavernous rooms. And actually the food in Detroit was amazing. I went to
Yeah.
It was like the Detroit, as you might imagine, Detroit, like lots of car conferences.
Yep.
So they've got just this enormous conference center, and we had like one end of it.
Yeah.
And they produce so much food for those things that like again, I think RailsConf was very scary for them. So like we went into there was like a room off the like industrial kitchen that was like a little restaurant, like one round table, and we like got served the food when we did the site visit. It's amazing.
Uh-huh.
But equally, like the food budget for RailsConf is like
Yeah.
5 years of
Massive.
Brighton Ruby. Just the food
Yeah.
budget. Like
Yep.
that's just scary and terrifying to me. Like so that and also I can't in all good conscience put my own financial and my family's financial safety at risk by doing something of that size.
Yeah.
Particularly as a side gig for me. Like this, I have a day job.
Mm.
I run a tech team. So like this is not my day job. This is my stupid hobby.
Yeah. Yeah. So with managing costs, I was able to just secure a venue which was very reasonably priced. So I think I can cover the venue with minimal ticket sales. Like with like if I only sold 30 tickets or 25 tickets, I think
Perfect.
I could cover the venue.
Yeah.
So I feel good about that. But I would obviously everybody wants to uh, first thing, take care of your speakers.
Yeah.
And it would be awesome to have an honorarium. Um, I guess and also like video. You want to do video because it's nice for them to have this record of the talk that they gave. Um,
After
how
a
do
fashion
you
it
think
is.
about what was that?
After a fashion.
Right, right. How do
I'm
you think
like,
about like
I think there's too
stacking
much
those?
focus. I think there's way too much focus on I'll watch the videos later because honestly, the people who watch videos on YouTube, speaker videos, rounds to zero. So like it's a lot of effort and cost
Right,
for
right,
something that some people have shown no income to you.
right.
They have not invested in your event. Like I'm weirdly selfish about this,
Hmm.
with good reason. Like I'm not just trying to be an idiot.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but like the Ruby events thing, which Marco Roth and
Yeah.
some other chaps put together, which is great and it's a brilliant resource. Like they
Yeah.
were like, can we put the Brian Ruby videos? And I was like, no, like not because I don't think it's a good thing, and I'm happy for you to link to them, but like I host the videos myself because I don't want them on YouTube,
Mm.
and I also don't. I consider them to be somewhat of a marketing benefit. Like there's that thing about being on YouTube where it's like you're just the same as every other video. Like who knows which conferences those came from. Also,
Yeah.
like if you want to give that talk again, like I delay my conference videos coming out. Like I don't strive to get the videos out the week afterwards. I'm like,
Okay.
take
Yeah.
your time, I'll put them out at Christmas because I use them to as an excuse to email people for next year.
Okay. Yep. That makes
Um,
sense.
so lots of people don't like they're just like, oh, I must get the videos out. But I'm just like that enthusiasm is great, but like mostly
Hmm.
those videos are for people who didn't come. Some people
Right.
will want to go, oh yeah, I wanted to show my teammates this video. I'm like, well, they can come next year if they want and see the great talks. It's also for a
Yeah.
speaker, like some conferences don't like to have the same talks as elsewhere.
Right.
So
Right.
like and also like I would rather people have not watched my talk when I walk into a room and give it for the first time. Like I like to, I've done talks that have got surprises in them, and
Right.
it's much more fun if no one in the room knows it's coming.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so as a speaker, I don't like having my videos out there very much.
Interesting. Okay. This is a contrary.
Most people don't say this, and
Yeah.
I might be wrong, but like this is
I-
just how I run. Like if the next time I give a talk, I'm going to ask for the video not to be up until like a year later, so I have a chance to give it. Because
Right.
when I give a talk, I put like 80 hours, 100 hours into that talk. I don't want to give it
Hmm.
once.
Yeah.
I want to give it multiple times and have and because the second time you give it, it's better. The third time
Right.
you give it, it's
Right.
better still. Like the fourth time, maybe you're getting like, okay, I've done this talk before, and like you like I'm improving things like it, and not all of us are Mats, right? Who has one talk that he changes like a third of every time he gives
Yeah.
it, right? Because he's constantly giving the future of Ruby talk
Right.
because that's what people want to hear from him. Or
Mm.
David DHH is giving his talk, which is like, here's what's coming in Rails, whatever,
Yep.
right? So
Yeah.
it is all the new stuff, and often like it's you can have conference talk driven development, right? Like they'll get stuff over the
Yeah.
line for the Rails release for his Rails World
Yeah.
for his Rails World keynote. Um, there's very few people who can give the same talk um, in multiple places. Yeah, you can maybe give
Right.
it once in Europe, once in the US, maybe twice in the US.
Hmm.
I don't know, it depends. But like once there's always a sense of like if you give a talk at RailsConf, it almost feels like you burned it.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not a super fan of that. Like I invest enough time, and I think certainly the talks that I give, would like to be able to give them again.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Do you think, though, that maybe part of this view is because you are an experienced speaker and you're an in-demand speaker? So you,
You say in demand, no one's invited me for ages.
well, but maybe you don't speak as much more
I haven't
but
with RailsConf last year. I basically said no, I
yeah,
can't do that and do like
right.
tour. I've burned
But
my hours on that.
do you think, and maybe it's still not practical, but for like a first time speaker, somebody who's never spoken before, they go to a conference and this is they got in through the CFP. This is the only talk they're going to give this year. Do they want to have it on video so that they can like post it on their LinkedIn or like have it on their resume?
Yeah,
Is
I
that
mean,
still practical
but
or
also
no?
like, why does it have to then be public? Why couldn't that be for them?
Yeah,
Like they
yeah,
could see it, they could watch it back first, get their feed, take what they get from it and go, oh yeah, that bit didn't work. So with all my speakers, I've seen most of the talks in my conference two or three times by the time they're given,
mm,
either because they've been given somewhere else or I have helped them put them together. And I
right.
think this is something that I can bring because I've been a speaker myself as well. So like
Mhm.
it's like a weird, I don't know, like it's like I'm really good at slides. I'm really good at keynote. Like that's no use generally in the sort of tech team I run, but like I can help someone go, oh, this slide doesn't cover what you said in it. You should say this and move this thing from here. And had you thought about line, so I really help. I try and really help my speakers with that stuff.
Yeah,
Um, but if you're giving it for the first time and you haven't had that assistance from a conference organizer, sometimes seeing the talk back is useful. So that's a good feedback thing. But that doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean the fact that you were a
Right. It
speaker
doesn't
means
have to
you're
be
on the
on
website.
YouTube.
Like you don't have to share the video.
Yeah.
You can share the video 6 months later. Hey, the videos are finally out for my thing. I also gave it here and here.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So, or you can like have a video that's private. You could share with a conference organizer saying, "I've given this talk before. It's not online. It's here if you want to see it." Um,
Hmm.
there's definitely a credibility building thing to being a speaker, but
Right.
I don't think rushing a video out is necessarily always the best way to build credibility as a speaker.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest,
Okay.
the best way to build credibility as a speaker is to just do it loads
Right.
and get better.
Those are good. Those are good points. You might be changing my mind. I was putting because I'm kind of like you said, I'm trying to manage costs
Yeah,
and stack things. So like, okay, I have the venue that I know I can like cover with ticket sales. Maybe if I get a sponsor, then I'll have videos. Maybe if I get another sponsor, then I'll have, this type of swag. Or I
I
think
would pay your
I think I
speakers
put
first.
what was that?
So I have an honorarium for the speakers.
Yeah,
I also pay their travel,
yeah.
which
So
most
okay,
conferences don't
their
do. Like
travel,
lots
which is plane and hotel.
from wherever they're coming from, they all get hotel. They
And
all
an
get
honorarium?
an honorarium.
Yeah,
So
I would love to.
I'm unusual in this.
Yeah, I like that though. I would love to do that. That
So
so that like if I got a sponsor, that first sponsor, that's what that would
so
go
the
towards.
big conferences will give you a free ticket and
Hmm.
often a hotel. Depends on the conference.
Yeah.
And it depends on which year the conference was as well. Like I know folks have had hotel rooms for RailsConf and for Rails World, and
Mhm.
sometimes they haven't, and sometimes they have if they're a keynoter. Like there's been various things. The bigger conferences are like a world I don't totally understand financially. The smaller
Yeah.
ones, I think you should be able to like that is a factor in my CFP. I'm not picking talks. Like I also want to support my local speakers, right? So like
Right.
it's normal. Like I generally don't get like an entire army of people who I have to fly in, right?
Right.
There'll be three or four, and sometimes their companies will cover that. So like this year,
Hmm.
I invited a bunch of Americans and Europeans, and their companies covered their flights and hotels anyway. And
Amazing.
that was a lucky year, which meant I got to do other stuff that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise.
Yeah.
So like they're effective, they become sponsors. Like they're not at the level of the
Yeah.
sponsors because a flight from anywhere is only like $1,000, $2,000, pounds, whatever, depending on how far they're coming from. So like, so for example, Tim Riley from Hanami, like a couple of years ago, I flew him over
Hmm.
and he wasn't sponsored by anyone, so I just paid for his flight. That was a lot of money,
Gotcha.
but like he was
Yeah.
worth it. He did a really great talk. Um, so yeah, like there's I think you have like these people are putting the out like I still feel guilty about the honorarium that I give because I don't feel like it's enough
Hmm.
because people put in hours to these things because they're
Yeah.
professionally important and like there is absolutely a side benefit to being a recognized speaker or having given a
Sure.
talk and the authority that that gives you in a career situation.
Hmm.
I'm not expecting you to give you're still the talent for me like without the speakers
Yeah.
there is no show.
Yep.
So like I my honorarium has moved around a bit over the year, depending on how well I do. I then feed
Yeah.
that back into an honorarium.
Yeah.
So like, I wish more conferences planned to pay their speakers. It shouldn't
Hmm.
cost you any money to come and speak anywhere,
Yeah.
and sometimes it does, and that sucks. Um, it should be an entirely positive experience. And I
Hmm.
think when you then have to pay a flight or like, I mean, doesn't happen in the Ruby community much, but like, I've heard of conferences that are like almost you also you can come and speak, but you also have to buy a ticket. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
absolutely no way. Um, yeah, like, I'm not. Let me give you 80 hours of my life away from my family, away from my day job, away from to then
Yeah.
pay to come to your conference that I wouldn't have otherwise attended.
Yeah.
Just that's a no go for me.
Do you do anything else for your speakers to make it special besides like the financial part?
Lovely speaker dinner before.
Mhm.
Generally, I try and get them to come in a bit earlier, particularly if they're coming from further away. Come and work from Brighton. Do you want to come and work from my office? That's fine. Um, yeah, like whatever I can do to make it. I think the other thing that I do, which is slightly different, is the investment in their talks.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that because that's really that's something I couldn't offer because I don't speak, but I think that's really awesome that you like go over the talks with them, especially for first time speakers. That is like an incredible uh other benefit of speaking at Brighton.
Yeah, I like to think it's worth it. And I did a bit. I mean, the the sort of Ruby Central conferences have a team of people who volunteer their time to do similar sort of stuff. Like there's speaker
Okay.
mentors at those big Ruby Central
Okay, nice.
conferences. Um, and honestly, like I lean on my friends when I do a talk. So like I lean on Nadia
Mhm.
Mayo or Emily Samp uh, or Eileen, um, just to get their feedback on the talk. Like, and that's just professionally. Like, is this whole? I can sort of tell what's not working. Sometimes you just need an outside voice. Like, I'm not. My talks are not perfect. I give them 4 or 5 times before I give them.
Yeah.
Um, and sometimes my feedback is, there's a joke here. You should do it because there's really nothing better than standing on a stage and getting a laugh. There really,
Yeah.
really isn't. Um, Very little. And particularly if you can get one early, because
Yeah.
it makes you feel better when you're on the stage, it gives you confidence. And so like that's why, Nadia famously there's this great story of like she showed me one of her talks, and like my feedback at the end was like, great talk. There's a joke here, there's a joke here, there's a joke here. He goes, Andy, I know how you would give this talk, but I'm giving the talk. I'm like, yeah, yeah, good point. So like, yeah, it's there's that sort of thing is helpful, like structure, and like I was like, you can lose this whole bit, like you lost me here. So yeah, like but that again, that's like years of doing this stuff. Like
Yeah.
that's like 15 years of doing conferences, and what I although it does round to zero on YouTube, I am the person watching your conference talks. Spoilers
Rounds to one.
for everybody out there, like I'm the person who's watching.
So for speakers, do you do just CFP or do you like reach out personally to some people and you're like,
Mix,
I want you to speak at
mix,
this year?
a real mix.
Okay.
So the last couple of years, I've sort of been dealing with a bit with a COVID backlog.
Okay,
So
yeah.
like there were a bunch of people I invited for for COVID era talks that didn't happen. Some of
Hmm.
them did the virtual conference that I did that I didn't enjoy because it's virtual.
Yeah.
And then some of the people are people that I've asked and have postponed. So this year I had asked like 2 or 3 folks in previous years and said, get back to me if you want to do it this year. And they got back to me and said, yeah, I'd love to speak this year. And I was like, cool.
Cool.
So then that fills up half. And also it's one day, right? I'm one day, one track.
Mhm.
So I've basically got somewhere between 6 and 12 talks, depending on length. So this year I did seven, 7 or 8 half-hour talks, and then 3 10-minute talks. Um,
Okay.
so I basically did lightning CFP. So like if you want to do a lightning talk,
Okay, yeah.
so that's
Have you
because
done? Oh,
I've
go
done a
ahead.
full CFP before as well. But
What was
this
that?
year, I've done a full like full length talk CFP as
Okay,
well.
yeah.
And obviously as part of RailsConf, that was all CFP.
Have you ever done any like workshops or that type of stuff?
Tried for whatever reason doesn't seem to work. I've
Hmm.
tried to sell like people who have recognized training courses and who
Hmm.
were speaking or wanted to come over and speak, but could only come and speak if we could make their trip worth it with a workshop for 8 people or 10 people or 12 people or 20 people or
Hmm.
for whatever reason doesn't fly in the local market. Like I don't know if that's a UK thing or a European thing or a time of community thing. I've just never been able to make it work.
Gotcha.
Um, the ticket price for I just never made training work. I just never been able to do it.
Yeah.
I could maybe the Ruby community is just full of folks who don't want to pay for that training. Like I imagine if we were in more enterprisey world, some sort of Java certification thing or
Right, right.
like a job, maybe a JavaScript just because the audience is wildly bigger, like an order of magnitude bigger because it's JavaScript and it's everywhere.
Hmm.
But the Ruby folks, I've never managed to make that work. Don't know why.
Gotcha.
Wish I could. Like I think there's huge benefit to in-person trainings.
Right.
Um, I'm not. I don't actually see that much in the. I mean, that's one of the things. Jason Sweat, when his Sin City Ruby, the originally that was meant to be a workshop.
Right,
Like
yeah.
he booked the venue and then couldn't sell tickets to a workshop, but could sell 50 tickets to a conference. So it's like, fine, sod it, I'll do that.
Yeah. Um, What's this is perhaps my own ignorance here. What's the difference between a keynote and a regular talk?
Ego? No. I don't. For me, not much.
Okay.
Um, sometimes keynotes tend to be people who are invited. You might give them
Mhm.
slightly longer because you can be confident that a 45-minute talk from someone who's giving a keynote isn't going to be dull. Um,
Right.
so one of the key things that I impress on my speakers is I give them half an hour because I'm like,
Right.
you can do a talk in half an hour. You think you can't, but you'll just ramble otherwise. If you've only got half an hour, you can get in, say the thing you're going to say, and then get out again,
Yeah.
and then have a conversation in the hallway. Um, there's nothing worse than an hour's slot of somebody rambling on and on and on.
Yeah.
That's people's lives. Come on, everyone. Honestly, people would rather have half an hour and then they'd rather have a coffee and
Yeah.
chat to their new Ruby friends. Um, but generally, a keynote can be longer. Um, keynotes sometimes some people feel like keynotes can be like less tutorially. Like some talks skew a
Mm.
bit tutorially. Like my talks
Right.
tend not to. Um, my talks tend to be a bit keynotey, idea-y, storytelling, maybe. I don't
Hmm.
know. They can be a different flavor. And sometimes, like David's keynotes are very much here's a feature, here's a feature.
Right.
Aaron Patterson's keynotes are here's half an hour of hilarious stand-up and then 15 minutes of the hardest Ruby you'll ever have in your head.
Yeah.
Um, everyone's got their own
Brilliant.
style. Like mine
A
are
great combo.
here's whenever I gave a keynote at RubyConf, I've given one at
Hmm.
Eureka, and those were just storytelling talks
Hmm.
related to technology, not necessarily Ruby even. Some of them were Ruby. Um,
Hmm.
some of them were more like career-y, I suppose. Um, yeah, like, and there's space for all of those things.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you ever kind of theme or ask for themes or guide people towards certain types of talks at Brighton?
I haven't done at Brighton. We did at RailsConf last year because we were really trying to focus on. I felt like RailsConf had gotten away from being about Rails.
Mm.
It had got like there were more of those kind of less practical talks, I guess,
Hmm.
as a
Hmm.
percentage. And partly we wanted to guide back hard onto technical talks and
Yeah.
workshops, and we went heavy on workshops
Hmm.
for that year. For Brighton, I tend not to, but it tends to emerge. It tends to be I'll invite a couple of folks, and then through the CFP, I will go, oh, that would go with that, or a CFP talk will come and I go, well, that's happening. I'm always listening to the community. Like I'm always listening. I'm reading blog posts, news letters, social media, all of this stuff. I'm
Hmm.
always on listening, and so often I'll be like, I'll know I want a talk on something in that area, and
Right.
so when it comes in, I'll be like, cool.
Gotcha.
And sometimes I will pair up talks. The after lunch slot tends not to be a hard technical talk.
Yeah.
Spoilers, like you put that one near the beginning of the day when everyone's full of caffeine and awake. You don't give it
Yep.
to them after they've had a nice long lunch in Brighton in the sun.
Yeah.
And then often I'll put something fun or silly at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Um, so my final talk will often be a more fun, interactive. I'll tend to put those in the afternoon. But
Hmm.
other than that, I tend not to. I don't have great themes, but often
Gotcha.
if you look at previous Brighton Rubies, you'll see either themes through the day, or I'll put like two data talks together, or I'll put
Mm.
two, or I'll contrast them. Like, it's if you can let the speakers know beforehand what's coming around them, they can sometimes. I have had speakers like who were worried they were going to tread on each other's topics, just run their talks past each other so that they could
Hmm.
either feed into each other's talk or. So I've had
Mm.
that as
Nice.
well. That's really worked.
Yeah. Do you think workshops work better at the like Rails Confi type level of conference?
I have seen that work better. I think certainly the Rails Comfy Ruby Centrally conferences, those tended to be and tend to be still people's training budgets from bigger teams,
Mm.
whereas
Yeah.
the indie conferences tend to be individuals paying.
Right.
That's my
Right.
impression. So the workshops tend to be like, and also back in the day at the Ruby Central stuff, they didn't used to tape the workshops.
Mm.
So people would go to the workshops because those were the things that weren't going to end up on YouTube.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So that was a thing at Rails Conf, and that's the thing we changed for last year's Rails Conf. Is it's like the workshops will also be recorded.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
like if you want to go to a workshop, but also you want to take advantage of a thing that you can only do here, which was like the hack day,
Hmm.
we wanted to encourage people to go to the thing that if that was a good excuse for them to catch up with the workshop another time, but yeah, go to the hack day because you can't do that.
Right.
You can't do the people stuff. So like
Right.
that's the other. They're just the big ones are just a different thing.
Yeah. Okay. We're already coming up on time, and I have so many questions.
Keep going.
I'm
It's fine.
trying
I'll
to.
hang out. I've got it's Friday afternoon here. I can keep going.
Okay. Awesome. Um, okay. So can you think of something small that you did that you didn't think of at the time? You just kind of threw it in there that maybe had an outsized impact where people afterwards were coming up to you and said, I'm so glad you did that thing. And you're like, wow, I almost didn't because I didn't even think it would matter to anybody.
Lots of things. I think that's my secret.
Nice.
I think that's so. I write a card for every speaker,
Yeah, love that.
and I did that for RailsConf as well.
Mm.
That was a lot of cards.
Yeah.
And also, it's so I do that. I try and make sure that the speaker things are in their rooms by the time they get there, or I'm sat in hotel
Mhm.
reception ready to give it to them, so that they
Mhm.
have a badge, they don't have to queue, all of those things.
Yeah.
Again, the effort I put through with the speakers before the talks, before their talks, so like helping them finesse their presentations. Uh, I think the fact that it's me on stage and it's clearly my thing and it's a personal thing and it feels handmade. Like I never
Mhm.
would want to get away from it being a thing that I have my hands in. The fact that I hole punch those badges, that
Right.
makes a difference. Like whether you know I did that or not, like that's me putting my
Right.
blood, sweat, and tears into it.
Yeah.
I think the thing is that thing I talked about earlier, which is like going through the code of conduct at the beginning of the day. Invariably, every year I've done it, somebody has sidled up to me at a conference. So part of it, so it's available online. It's available on the Brighton Ruby site. Like
Mhm.
I've recorded the first year I did it or the second year I did it.
Yep.
Um, and I put my own personal phone number on the board. I don't then post that on the internet.
Yeah.
Um, but like I put it out there. This is my literal personal phone number. Take a note of it now. If you need to text me, you can text me. Um, and so and I go through what I expect in terms of behavior. So like, and I go through the sort of behavior that you might be tempted to excuse. So like having a couple of drinks and being a bit sleazy in a bar is a thing that happens in work environments across all industries and is not unique to tech or Ruby even. And I say, I expect you not to do that. And if someone tells you off for something that you said or say, I don't really think that was cool, that thing you said, then you just suck it up. And I say this at the beginning of the conference, and I say, like, I want to hear about these things where people then don't suck it up, or when they do think they can get away with it because they're just boozy and they're feeling a bit, like an entitled dude. Generally, it's always a guy. Um, but I do that, and I invariably get somebody come up during the day and go, "Thank you so much for that." It's not a big thing, but it's why I do it every year because like that makes a difference to the vibe of the whole event, and I don't think people appreciate. I think they appreciate the personal care that I take in
Mhm.
setting up an environment that is friendly and as Ruby-ish as I can make it.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite conference experiences or other conferences that you've been to, maybe as an attendee or as a speaker?
I was keynoting RubyConf when I was picked out of the CFP and then they wanted to turn it into a keynote. And I would say I made a bunch of Americans cry and it was pretty cool. Um, that's really fun. Um, I would say every time the first US event after COVID felt special, which was where was that? Portland, Portland RailsConf. that felt special because it was like emerging, and suddenly there were people who I knew had known from conferences, and I was suddenly like, oh, we're friends because we have missed each other.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
like that was a big thing for me. It's like people who I'd previously said, oh yeah, I know them from conferences and speaking and la la la. And I was like, you see them, yeah, it was the speaker dinner, and I went up and I gave this person a hug. And I went, should we have another hug? That was great. Like, because it's suddenly I was suddenly like, wow, we really like each other, don't we? Like it's that thing of just like over the years you build relationships I didn't fully understand until I didn't have them. So that was a
Yeah.
pretty special thing. And honestly, like the first beer after a conference where people are being nice to you and you can't
Hmm.
even really speak. So I'm often in the bar at Brighton Ruby, like I've packed down my stuff, I've like put the banners down, I'm just having a drink. Um, Not many because at that point I'm totally wrecked, just
Yeah.
physically. And the first beer is just so nice. And I tend to I used to I did karaoke a few years afterwards, but I
Mhm.
found that to be completely I would wreck myself for days just like doing that after the conference. And now I just quietly there's a couple of folks who come every year and I just we go for pizza and I isolate myself away and just like get their opinions on what the day was like.
Yeah.
Some people love like the big after party, but I'm so done
Yeah.
with the thing. And it's different
Yeah.
like, at the bigger conferences. I really like them. They're like a celebration, and you can like move between the hotel bar, and it's fine. And like even as a speaker, where you've had the stress of speaking, um,
Hmm.
I like it. I like all of it. I like people. I like the Rubyists who I know.
Hmm.
So yeah, like and it obviously it lights me up because otherwise I wouldn't keep doing it. I guess that's why I keep doing it. But yeah, like all of those, it's it's the friends we made along the way is the answer. As Disney as that sounds.
Yeah. I agree. I like that answer. Um, okay, to wrap it up, is there any resources or people that you would recommend to talk to about conference organizing?
I would try and get someone who's newer than me to it. Like I
Mm,
can't really remember what the first one was like.
mm,
Um, I'm coming at it with 15 years of doing it. Um, so I'm probably not the best person to ask how to start a conference. Uh, and the only way you'll really know if you enjoy it is by doing it because
yeah.
it is all encompassing. The week before is so all encompassing. I would say people to speak to, Adrian from Friendly,
Yep.
still
I just
relatively
talked to
new.
him
You've
yesterday,
got him.
actually.
He's great.
Yeah.
Lovely, lovely man.
Yeah.
Um, I would say for your sort of thing, yeah, you want to find the small people like you get to speak to Jason Sweat,
Yep.
like because
I talked to him
he
yesterday.
had a very his conference was very him. Like he put a lot of
Yeah.
himself in it,
Yeah.
from what I can establish. Uh, yeah, like I think you want the people who have done it a couple of times,
Hmm.
worked out that yeah they've made a mistake or two,
Yeah.
and they know I've made all of the mistakes.
Yeah.
Um,
But the mistakes for them are fresh.
yeah, exactly right.
They
Like
just made them last year.
hopefully I'm still making mistakes, but like hopefully
Yeah.
those folks have more of a sense of going backwards. The Swiss Ruby folks as well, and it's just you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you need to speak to a monomaniac like me or Jason or
Hmm.
Adrian has help, I think, a bit. Um, but I mean, also like whoever's done the Yuruko most recently, because
Hmm.
Yuruko is a weird conference where they tear it up.
Yeah.
That's completely bananas. There's absolutely
Yeah.
no way to do
It's
it.
a really wild strategy. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's interesting though.
that's very much the emailing Mats and going, damn, now I have to do a conference kind of vibe, but like every year.
Yeah.
And also, it's 700 people, and Mats is definitely coming.
Yeah.
So yeah, like those things are big. But like, yeah, I think if you've got a venue that you know you can make it work with 30 or 40 folks,
Hmm.
you can build from there. And like, if you've got any other questions, give me a shout. Like, because I can help you answer the question that you already have the answer. You just need to talk to someone about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. All righty. Well, I appreciate your time so much.
No problem.
And yeah. Are you going to RailsConf this year?
I unfortunately am not going to RailsConf because it clashes with a family holiday. So
Oh, shoot.
I would have
Yeah.
been flying. There's like literally, I looked at it because I really wanted to go. There's one flight that I could catch from Philly to London, and it would have to come in on time, and then I would have to be up at 5 a.m. the next morning to drive to the south of France. So I could not, in all good conscience, do that. But yeah, give my love
All
to
right.
Philly and all the folks there if you're going.
Yeah, we'll miss you. But thank you so much for your time
No
and your
problem at all.
knowledge. And yeah, hopefully, I know this video will help a lot of people looking to do their own conference. So
Cool.
appreciate it.
All
Thank you,
right.
Andy.
No worries.